Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Behind the Bulletin, where every glance hides a story and every whispered moment sparks a revelation. Today, we dive into a scene so unexpected, so electrifying, that it sent fans and reporters into complete shock. Park Bo-gum whispered "I love you," and Kim Yoo-jung's SHH stunned everyone. What really happened in that quiet, breathtaking second? What truth was she trying to silence? Stay with us, the story begins right now. Had fallen into a soft, breathless silence long before anyone realized something extraordinary was about to happen. It was supposed to be a casual reunion. Gathering of cast members who had once shared a drama that captured millions of hearts. The atmosphere buzzed with nostalgia, laughter, harmless teasing. But beneath the glow of stage lights and the gentle hum of conversation, a tension simmered, subtle, hidden, and waiting for its moment to erupt. Park Bo-gum sat beside Kim Yoo-jung, his posture graceful yet restless, his eyes carrying a weight far deeper than the cameras could ever capture. Each time she spoke, he glanced at her with an intensity that betrayed years of unspoken emotion. She laughed lightly, unaware of the storm gathering inside him, or perhaps pretending not to notice. And then it happened. In a moment so quiet it nearly vanished beneath the applause. Park Bo-gum leaned closer, just enough for the world to hold its breath. His voice dropped into a soft, unmistakable whisper. A confession born from years of restraint. "I love you," he murmured. The words trembling with sincerity, fear, and longing all at once. But before the sound even had time to settle into the air, Kim Yoo-jung lifted her hand, slowly, deliberately, and pressed a single finger against her lips. SHH. The gesture was gentle, yet the impact was thunderous. The room froze. Conversations halted mid-sentence. Even the cameras, ever hungry for drama, seemed to hesitate, as though stunned by the intimate collision of vulnerability and silence. Bo-gum's breath caught. His eyes widened for a fraction of a second, revealing raw emotion he had spent years burying under professionalism and charm. But Yoo-jung's gaze told another story, complex, conflicted, shimmering with something deeper than surprise. Her gesture wasn't rejection. It wasn't dismissal. It was a warning, a plea, a fragile barrier trying desperately not to break. Bo-gum sat back, his heartbeat pounding so loudly he could barely hear the renewed chatter around them. Staff members whispered urgently, glancing at the pair with growing curiosity. Some had seen it. Some had felt the shift. It was impossible not to. The air had changed. Minutes earlier, the reunion had been carefree. Fans watching the live stream flooded the chat with excitement, laughing at the cast's playful banter. Every smile, every shared memory between Bo-gum and Yoo-jung reignited old speculations, the kind that had followed them ever since their drama became a cultural phenomenon. Their chemistry had been too natural, too hauntingly perfect to be forgotten. But no one expected what came next. Right before the whisper, there had been a subtle moment, one the audience barely noticed. Yoo-jung had tensed when a certain question surfaced, her smile faltering for the briefest second. A reporter had asked whether the two still kept in touch privately. Had answered with a warm, reassuring smile. But Yoo-jung had looked away, her expression shadowed by something unsaid. It was in that shadow that the truth hid. As Bo-gum whispered his confession, it wasn't merely a slip of emotion. It was a breaking point, the moment years of silent longing breached their boundaries. But Yoo-jung's SHH carried a story of its own. Didn't tremble, but her hand did. Her eyes flickered. Fear? Sadness? Or something far more dangerous? After the gesture, she leaned closer. Tone soft but commanding. "Not here," she murmured, almost inaudible to the crowd. Yet the way Bo-gum's jaw clenched revealed he understood exactly what she meant. Not here. Not now. In front of them. But why? Whispers spread among staff backstage. Someone claimed they had seen a manager stiffen the moment the two exchanged glances. Another swore they heard Yoo-jung being warned earlier. Something about keeping boundaries and avoiding suspicion. The tension around her had been growing all night, like an invisible net tightening. Bo-gum, however, seemed beyond fear. His confession had not been planned. It was instinct, a release of a truth he could no longer contain. But Yoo-jung's response carried a weight that even he hadn't anticipated. The event continued, but nothing felt normal anymore. Yoo-jung's hand trembled when she held the microphone. Bo-gum's eyes never left her, filled with worry and a fierce determination. Fans watching noticed everything, The stiffness. The lingering glances. The echo of an interrupted confession. Social media exploded instantly. What did he whisper? Why did she hush him like that? Is something going on behind the scenes? But the truth, the real truth, was far more tangled than anyone imagined. Because the moment Yoo-jung said SHH, she wasn't just silencing his words. She was silencing a truth that had been haunting them both for years. And now, it was threatening to break free. The air backstage had shifted into something sharp and electric. As if the walls themselves were listening. Park Bo-gum followed Kim Yoo-jung down the dim hallway. His steps quickening with every second of silence that stretched between them. She didn't look back. But the tremor in her shoulders betrayed the storm churning inside her. The SHH she had given him wasn't a rejection. It was a warning, and now. The warning had turned into fear. And she finally stopped. It wasn't because she wanted to. It was because she had to. Her breath came shallow and fast. Her fingers tightening around the edge of a table as if grounding herself before the truth unraveled completely. Yoo-jung, Bo-gum's voice cracked. Thick with the weight of everything he hadn't said over the years. Did you stop me? What are you afraid of? Closed her eyes tightly. As though fighting an inner collapse. You shouldn't have said it. Whispered. Not there. Not in front of them. Understand what happens if. I don't care, he cut in. Deepening with a mixture of frustration and aching sincerity. Stayed silent for years. I've watched you pretend nothing happened. I've watched both of us pretend. I can't do it anymore. Her eyes snapped open, not with anger, but with a fear so raw it sent chills down his spine. It's about us pretending. It's about what they'll do if we don't. Before he could ask who they were, a sharp echo of footsteps approached from the far end of the corridor. Yoo-jung stiffened instantly. Bo-gum stepped closer to her, instinctively protective. His eyes narrowing as shadows began to stretch across the floor. A figure emerged, a manager. But not one either of them trusted. His expression was cold, controlled. Far too calm for the tension choking the hallway. Tutoir, he said. Though his tone lacked surprise. We need to talk. Bo-gum recognized that voice. Had heard it before, during private meetings. Restrictive briefings. Whispered warnings disguised as advice. This was the person who had always kept them apart. Silenced rumors before they could breathe. Always insisted on controlling the narrative. Yoo-jung paled. Not now, she said quietly. But the manager stepped closer. Eliminating any chance of escape. You made a mistake tonight, he said. Voice dropping into something darker. Both of you. Bo-gum moved in front of Yoo-jung. Blocking the manager's path. Answer to you. Not anymore. The manager smirked. You think a whispered confession is harmless? You think fans won't dissect it? You think it won't become a wildfire by morning? His gaze slid to Yoo-jung. Cold and assessing. Silencing him didn't help. It only made things worse. Her breath caught. I was trying to protect us. No, the manager said sharply. You're trying to protect him. And that was your biggest mistake. The hallway darkened. The overhead lights flickering as if reacting to the tension. Yoo-jung's fingers dropped to her side, trembling. You promised, she whispered. You said if we stayed quiet, everything would stay buried. It would have, he replied, stepping forward. If he hadn't opened his mouth. Bo-gum clenched his fists. Enough. He wasn't shouting. He didn't need to. His voice carried a controlled fury that was far more dangerous than anger. This ends tonight, he continued. Not going to control us anymore. Whatever has been buried, let it come out. Bo-gum, Yoo-jung's voice wavered, pleading. But he didn't stand down. The manager's smile faded. You want that? He asked quietly. Fine. Let me remind you what comes next. He pulled out his phone and tapped the screen. It flashed, grainy, dark. Recognizable only to them. Yoo-jung gasped. Her hand flying to her mouth. Bo-gum's jaw locked. Footage showed a moment from years ago, a private moment. Meant for no one else's eyes. It wasn't scandalous. It was intimate. Too intimate. A conversation about feelings, fears. And a confession Yoo-jung had once begged him not to reveal. It was real. Vulnerable. And if released, the world would twist it into something unrecognizable. The manager said. Is what the world will see if either of you step out of line again. One upload. That's all it takes. stepped forward, fury shaking through him. "You're using our lives as leverage." "I'm using reality," the manager replied coldly. "Your reality." Yoo-jung swayed, overwhelmed. Bo-gum caught her before she stumbled. The moment she leaned into him, trembling, something inside him snapped. "No more," he whispered. And then he looked at the manager with an expression he had never worn before, pure resolve. "Do whatever you want. Release it. Twist it. Burn everything down if that's what you want." Voice lowered, unshakable. "But we're done letting you control us." The manager's eyes widened, caught off guard. "We will tell the truth ourselves." Bo-gum continued. "All of it." Yoo-jung stared at him, stunned, her breath shaking. "Bo-gum, if we do this, there's no going back." He took her hand, squeezing gently, the kind of gesture that spoke louder than any words he had ever whispered. "There hasn't been any going back for a long time." They turned toward the press room, ignoring the manager's furious voice behind them. Step they took echoed like a countdown to freedom. Destruction, they didn't know. But for the first time in years, they were walking toward the truth together. When they opened the door, reporters gasped. Cameras flipped on. Bright lights struck their faces. Bo-gum spoke first. "There's something we must confess," he began. Voice steady despite the storm he had just walked through. "Something that has been hidden for far too long." Yoo-jung lifted her chin, standing beside him without fear. "Whatever happens next," she added, "we face it together." The room erupted. Flashes exploded like lightning. Voices overlapped in chaotic waves. But Bo-gum and Yoo-jung didn't flinch. Had finally arrived, and nothing would ever be the same. The final words left their lips. The frenzy of the press room swelled into a thunderous storm. Yet Park Bo-gum and Kim Yoo-jung stood unshaken in its center. For the first time, the weight that had pressed on their hearts for years dissolved into something lighter, not certainty, not safety, but freedom. Whatever truth the world would hear, whatever judgment would follow, they no longer faced it alone. Their silence had broken. Their fear had shattered. And in its place stood a courage powerful enough to withstand any wave headed their way. The cameras continued flashing. Voices kept rising. But their eyes held steady, on the truth, on the moment, and on each other. This was not the end of their story. This was only the beginning of everything they had fought to reveal. Thank you to everyone who followed this journey through every twist, every breathless moment, and every hidden truth. Curiosity, your support, and your willingness to stay until the very end mean more than words can express. We appreciate your time, your trust, and your presence. Stay with us, more stories await. And the truth is only just beginning to unfold.